just before Pearl Harbor. He volunteered, joined the 92nd Infantry Division, went to Europe, was part of the Normandy invasion, saw extensive action across Europe, was part of the group that went into Buchenwald concentration camp, things that affected and impacted him for the rest of his life. They took me overseas to Papua New Guinea when I was still in school. We went into the jungles of New Guinea, where while I was still a teenager, I taught school to kids who had never heard any English words in their life. I've been privileged to see them become part of the government, doctors, lawyers, teachers, friends of mine who are now in the government, ambassadors. That's just a little bit of my history to say I've got open arms for people from other countries and other cultures. But I'm a conservative, and I respect our country, and I respect our people. My sons, even though I was in the Army, my sons felt they had to be a little tougher than their dad, so they joined the Marines. They did a tour of duty as Marines, came back and went to college and got a degree, and now are law enforcement officers in the capital of Michigan, Lansing. One's a sergeant there, the other is in the SWAT team. So they're part of the thin blue line that protects us and our people on a daily basis. Regardless of the disrespect they receive, they're still there for us. Even though I was overseas for 14 years, when I came back every single time, my eyes were wet with tears as my feet touched American soil. There is no nation in the world, and I've been in a lot of them, there's no nation in the world like United States of America. What does it mean to be free? Thomas Campbell said the blood of the patriots are the seed of freedom's tree. Recently, Senior Chief William Ryan Owens gave the ultimate sacrifice just last month. And as his wife recently was there in the crowd as President Trump addressed Congress, we saw as she wept, as people respected her and gave honor to her husband for his sacrifice. She was touched to the core by the love and respect she felt in that room. And I know here in this crowd, we are represented by people who have family members who have also given that supreme sacrifice. 72 years ago right now, on the island of Iwo Jima, our Marines were battling. We all have imprinted indelibly in our minds the picture of them raising the flags. But how often do we think of the 6,823 who never left there alive? We owe a debt of gratitude and respect and honor and loyalty to those who have dedicated their lives and given their all. Veterans are those who sign a blank check, and it's made out to the amount of up to and including their lives. I was recently reading about a man who entered a plane for a flight and sat down and watched as 10 soldiers filed on and took their seats. And as the flight attendant came around, and as anymore you don't get anything free on an airplane, asked if they would like to buy lunch, and everyone kind of looked away and they refused. The man walked back into the galley and gave the flight attendant $50 and said, "Here's for their lunch." A little later, the pilot came back looking at seat numbers, and this guy said, "Oh no, he's looking for me. I'm embarrassed." And sure enough, he came up to me. He said, "At one time, I was a fighter pilot in Desert Storm, and one time I had someone buy me a lunch. You don't know what it did for me, the kind of respect it showed to me." And he slipped him a $50 bill. A little later, somebody else came up and gave him another $50 bill. He got in the airport, in the waiting room, here these 10 soldiers are, waiting for their next flight to Afghanistan, and somebody came up and gave him another $50 bill. He walked over to the soldiers and said, "Here's $150 for your next meal while you're waiting here in the airport." That's the kind of respect that we as conservatives show because we love our country. We need to fight to keep what we have. You know, a few years ago, actually in 2014, in August, I said to my wife, how long will we still have the country that we have now? If it goes on this way, it's pretty soon it's going to be extinct. I think we need to make a little patriotic tour right now before it's too late. We took our daughter Carolina, who's here somewhere, or was a few minutes, there she is, back in that gray hoodie. We did a little patriotic tour, and we hit places like Gettysburg and Philadelphia and New York City. And as Aya stood on the stern of a boat just feet away from the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island, she sang that song that was penned by Emily Lazarus, "Give me your poor, your huddled masses longing to be free." We couldn't help but have tears stream down our face. She sang it so beautifully, but thinking about, you know, my Irish ancestors first saw America through that view right there. Every one of us, whether you're Native American or you're from Ireland or Scotland or China, wherever it might be, we're all immigrants at one point or another. We're for people that want to come and join a part of this nation. Winston Churchill had said, "To build may be the slow and laborious work of years. To tear down and destroy takes but a moment." We've seen a lot of destruction, even since our election. We've seen police cars overturned. When Aya and I were in Washington there for the inauguration, riots took place. And that's fine for people to voice their opinion. But when it comes to burning and looting and violence, it has no place in our political system. He also said the price of greatness is responsibility. Paul Harvey always reminded us that self-government won't work without self-discipline. I miss hearing that radio broadcast from Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. One of our founding fathers way back said, as soon as our government figures out that they can print money themselves, our country is in a lot of trouble. And buddy, we're in a lot of trouble. A cartoon has been floating around. I've seen it on Facebook. In fact, I've reposted it a couple of times. It shows a chimpanzee standing on the ramp to Noah's Ark. I don't know if you've seen that cartoon or not, but he's standing there with a .45 in his hand, and he says, "Fight like you're the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark." And buddy, it's beginning to rain. You know, it was almost too late for us, but we've pulled it off. As Aya said, let's roll. We did it. Churchill had also said, if you will not fight for right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory is sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all of the odds against you and only have a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than to live as slaves. My second point is, my four-letter word is duty. You know, a lot of people today, they don't really think of responsibilities and duties and putting others first. I heard a question was asked, if you had the opportunity of saving a drowning man or winning the Pulitzer Prize for taking a picture of him, which would you do? And too many times the answer is, what shutter speed should I use? We watch in horror as our cities burn and abstractly think of our out-of-control national debt. Some even poke fun of our president for saving $750 million on our fighter planes because they say, what's that against a $20 trillion deficit? Paul Harvey again said, for me, success in this earthly trip is to leave the woodpile a little higher than I found it. If any of you ever had to split wood when you were a kid, you understand that concept, how nice it is to see the woodpile higher than it is lower. What have we done? What mark have we left on the world? What are we planning on doing? What is our goal? If we look back on our life, are we accomplished or are satisfied with what we have accomplished? With that wind the way it is, I could cut my speech in half, I think, here. You know, they say it's self-serving politicians that figured out a system where we could all stand in a circle with our hands in each other's pockets and somehow get rich. It really doesn't work that way. If we think about the word hope, 150 years ago, Abraham Lincoln said, "My dream is of a place and a time where America will once again be seen as the last best hope on earth." They were in the midst of a civil war, brother against brother, state against state, people against people. And Abraham Lincoln realized that the world looked on at America as no longer a good place to go to with the war and the battles going on. He said, but I look forward to the day when that can be the case again. We can look at ourselves today and say, if not us, who? If not here, where? If not now, when? We have been given the opportunity to change our country for the better. We want people to come in, but we don't want people to come in to want to change our country to be like the country they left. We want people to come in to want to change themselves to become Americans. We want people that have our goals, our values, and our pride of country. We don't need anyone that hates the way of life or is not proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with us in every conflict, in every difficulty, and in every success. We are a nation of immigrants, and we welcome people from every country to become part of us. Many years ago, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow said, "The lives of great men all remind us we can make our life sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints in the sands of time, footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's boundless main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brothers, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait." It says to love means loving the unlovable, to forgive means pardoning the unpardonable, faith means believing the unbelievable, but hope means hoping when everything seems hopeless. My wife and I, as I mentioned, had the privilege of attending the inauguration this last January, listening personally to President Trump shoot straight from the shoulder. He took no prisoners from the establishment. Didn't matter whether they're Republicans or Democrats. He said, "You guys have had your field day long enough. Now it's the people's turn." And he turned out to the people and said, "This is your day. This is for you. I will be your president. I'm working for you. I honor and respect you." He said at that point that I will keep my promises that I made at the campaign trail. And since then, he has worked tirelessly with sleeping like 4 hours a night to fulfill those promises. Against the pundits' dire predictions, the stock market now has reached record levels when supposedly it was going to plunge. Our world leaders have been developing positive relationships with us. Our enemies have been put on notice. Our end is not in sight. Even the beginning of the end is not in sight. But the end of our despair is visible through the haze of confusion and hopelessness that has filled our horizon for so long. President Reagan said when he went to France on the anniversary of the Normandy invasion, he said, "Never forgetting those who have ended it all here serving in our military." And he said, strengthened by their courage, hardened by their values, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died. Thank you.